Hi all, I'm Adil Baig, faculty of KingMakers IAS Academy. So just now we had the civil services results. So we had many toppers from all over India. And in today's session, we will be interacting with one such topper who secured All India 40th rank in the civil services examination, Mr. Kushal Jain. Kushal Jain is from Madhya Pradesh and he secured the 40th rank in his fourth attempt with Sociology as his optional. So it's been a long journey for Kushal Jain. So today we'll discuss about the journey of Kushal Jain in achieving this feat, and we'll also be discussing the strategy which he followed during his preparation, and we'll also discuss about the nuances which is needed, the things which he corrected during the preparation, and how this 40th rank, how he ended up in this 40th rank. So all these things, the journey, the strategy, and the preparation and the life. So each and every aspect of it we'll be discussing in this session, and I hope this benefits all the aspirants who are watching out there. So now I welcome Kushal Jain. Hello, Kushal Jain. Hi.
Hello, sir. Hi.
So we'll start. First of all, we'll start basically with the journey. So you finished your college from Bangalore, IAS in Bangalore, and you worked and then you started your preparation. Can you just brief about how your journey was from your college to All India 40?
Sir, I think it was a very fulfilling and a learning curve, I would say. I was in Rashtriya Vidyalaya College of Engineering, Bengaluru. From there, I was hired in Microsoft India Private Limited in Bangalore itself. And I worked there for 1.5 years. After that, I decided to pursue civil services as a career. And then I started my preparation in 2018. And from there I was fortunate enough to reach interview stages in all my previous attempts. So I think, yeah, it was a learning experience with fine tuning my preparation according to the requirements and my marks, which eventually led me to All India rank 40.
Okay. So in your journey, we could see that you reached the personality test in all the previous 3 attempts. So in this 3 attempts, so reaching the personality test in all the 3 attempts means surely you would have cleared mains, cleared the prelims in the first attempt, and you have cleared the mains in the first attempt. So
Yes.
now we'll start with the preliminary point of view. So overall, how could you, can you brief about your prelims strategy for various subjects, and what were you doing with respect to the prelims preparation?
So I think the strategy is really direct and simple, but following it is a little hard. So I think I would just advise everybody that you can take the syllabus of the prelims paper, which is there in the UPSC website. First, you have that, you can go through that to understand what is the requirement of the paper. Second thing is you can take any coaching's timetable, not the entire package, nothing, just timetable, which is available free on their website. And what it will do is it will help you arrange your timetable weekly with a fixed syllabus as well as the question, the sectional test after it. So I think that will really structure your preparation, and based on the number of days and or weeks or months you have for your prelims preparation, you can accordingly organize that syllabus. Once that syllabus is organized, you have to religiously follow it. You don't have to do any laxity in it. And after every week or every 2 weeks, you have to write a sectional test without fail. Once you do that, and you will find that your syllabus is getting completed in time, and with all the sectional papers solved. These are available in for very meager cost in the market, the sectional papers as well. So you don't have to really join any coaching. If you want that guidance, you can definitely go ahead. They do provide guidance, but if you can also do it all by yourself, which I did. I think once you do that, at the end you have to also look at the UPSC previous year question papers, which are mandatory, because at the end you're writing that paper. So I think when you study the UPSC's previous year questions, you get a gist of how the question is asked, and you also have to keep your answer key with it, the UPSC's answer key, so as to understand what kind of questions has what kind of answers given in UPSC, because there are many questions that are contentious by many institutes that release the answer key. So I think that will also help you understand the requirements of UPSC. Once you've done that, I also suggest people to go back to all the sectional papers, all the full length papers that they have solved, and again revise them to understand where you were wrong or where you made a mistake at that point, and how you can rectify it. Or if it has not been rectified, then you can go to YouTube or your teacher or any material that you follow and read that part of the portion again, because then that is your weak point. So at the end, if you don't leave any weak points, I feel you're good to go with the prelims aspect.
Okay. So with respect to prelims preparation, now you are talking about the solving the test. So following an institute's schedule. So one main problem with most of the aspirants face is that when they are having, so there will be a sectional test, there will be a topics which is given for the sectional test for that particular week. So most of the aspirants are not able to finish those topics 100% and give the test. So at one point of time, they will be finishing it 80% and they'll give a test, and rest of the 20% of the topics they will be having a backlog, and after the next day they will start for the next test. So at the end of the day, they are not complete with the syllabus of that particular week, and at sometimes they will be trapped in this. So it is advisable whether to strictly follow the schedule of an institute's test series, or can we have our own test schedule and just go and write the test?
Sir, I think it works both ways, because if you follow any institute's test series, you will also have that particular portion sectional test at the end of it. That might not happen if you've divided the syllabus all by yourself. You might think that you know the concepts, but the application part is still not tested. So I think following that, so if you can always keep 1 or 2 days per month as a clearing of backlog days. Try not to have backlogs. Even if you have 80% prepared, give the test, because it might happen that the rest 20% concept might be covered in the test solutions as well. So when you're reading that solution, read very carefully, because it only 2 or 3 things can happen. If you've gotten the answer correct, you can test your logic while reading the solution, that whether your logic was correct or it was just a guesswork. If your answer is not correct, you can definitely learn that concept again. And even if you were not sure during the paper and you got it correct or incorrect, you can again reread it from your standard sources as well, so that you'll know that your paper is prepared. So in doing that, A, your backlog will be completed, and B, you'll be well within time at the end to not have any backlog pending.
The follow-on question with this area is, now imagine a student aspirant who is starting his or her preparation now in June. So, and they are aiming for the preliminary in May next year, 2023. So now they'll be starting obviously with syllabus and NCRTs. So then they will go to some standard books. So if that is the case, which is the right time for them to start the test series? Because now they'll be focusing on the NCRTs. So how many times they have to read the NCRTs and then start the test series, or when it will be right time for them to start?
Sir, I think initially they should go with the NCRTs part, but they should try to finish it faster. Once they're done with their NCRTs, this is not the time to write the test, because currently you're just forming a very, very basic understanding of the syllabus and what is required. So I think at that point, test is not required. Once you are done with your NCRTs and you have an initial understanding of what is required in this exam, I think then you should take any test series, and based on the number of months that are available with you, you should compress. So for example, if the test series is of 4 weeks, I'm just giving an example, and if you have 1 week, you have to compress it in that 1 week, and then you have to move a little faster. So that all depends based on how much time you have. Somebody might be starting from college as well, so they have a lot more time, so they can stretch that 1 week syllabus into 2 weeks and do it consciously again. So I think in that sense, you'll be prepared once you're about to write the exam.
Okay. Now I'll go with the next question. So now let us go into the books part of the preliminary. So how would you suggest the aspirants to start their journey with respect to prelims and with respect to the books, NCRTs and standard book? Can you just share your book list and what is the right combination of books for all the subjects?
So I think the purpose should be following minimum number of books and revising it as many times as you can. Now, but these minimum number of books must not skip any standard books. So, for example, in we have Lakshmikant for polity, and similarly we have for every topic, and that book list is available online. If you see, for any topper, I think it more or less remains the same. We have either Bipin Chandra or Spectrum for modern history. Then we have Tamil Nadu NCRT textbooks for ancient history. Those are really good. So I think all these books are just standard books which are mentioned everywhere. You will not have a problem finding these standard textbooks. You just have to take that textbook. You have to study it thoroughly. You don't have to memorize everything. You just have to understand the gist of every topic. so that elimination helps in UPSC prelims. I think once that is done, and then you have applied these concepts in the answers, then you have read the solutions of that answers. I think that topic is more or less covered.
Okay. So now I'll go on my question with the ancient history and medieval history. So for ancient and medieval, what were your choices? Whether it was old NCERT or Tamil Nadu books?
Sir, I read both of them,
Okay, fine.
but because it was the memorizing part of it was a little harder for me. So I understood the concepts, I understood the main broad points of ancient history and medieval history, so that I'm able to attempt the question rather than just go for brute facts learning.
Fine. So now with respect to, and there is this themes part in the 11th and 12th. So what about the themes and our past NCERTs? Is this a must read or we can just focus on the old NCERTs and Tamil Nadu?
I think I focus on the old ones, but I also have to see the new ones to be able to better judge.
Okay, did you see the themes part also for your preparation?
No, I didn't.
Okay, fine. Yeah, that's what I'm asking with respect to your perspective of how it all went. Okay, so now then what about the then how you handle the science and technology part of the preliminary? Whether did you go and study the NCERTs of 9th and 10th for the basic science or just the current affairs part?
No, I don't recommend studying NCRTs for of 9th and 10th. I think the current affairs part of science and technology is enough, and I think a basic commonsensical approach to science and technology. For example, there was an artificial intelligence related question last year, I feel, that based on the current technology, what are the available things. Now most of the students marked D for that question, and but I didn't mark because there was one electrical transmission or something which is not really happening from artificial intelligence right now in the country. We are still on the optical fiber and fiber mode. So I think if that commonsensical approach is there, science and technology questions are not really hard, and they are really scored.
And there is another trend with respect to preliminary is that the agriculture questions are rising in the preliminary. So did you have any separate strategy for agriculture or just the general geography and economy and environment? The allied topics which is coming in these three areas was enough.
So I think these three allied topics were enough. I didn't go for any other material for agriculture. And again, as I said, based on the understanding from these three topics, if you apply it on agriculture as well, you'll be able to reach to the answer.
Okay, yeah, like a few people were telling that we have to see about agriculture as a separate subject and we have to analyze it. So personally, I also was feeling that studying economy, environment, and geography integrated way is enough for agriculture. Yeah,
yes,
fine. So now we were talking about current affairs. So with respect to current affairs, what was your strategy and how you approach the newspapers and what was your routine with respect to newspapers and current affairs?
So I think initially when I was understanding how to read newspapers, once I used to read the newspaper, I used to just Google that gist of newspaper today, UPSC, and one or two links of many institutes who were uploading these daily gist of newspapers. So for the first 2 months, I did that to understand how to read a newspaper from a point of view of UPSC aspirant. Once that is done, and I was I had sufficient knowledge of okay, what I have to focus. Then what I did was I read the newspaper, and I also went to many online modules. Insight is one. There is IS Baba. There are different ones, whichever you are comfortable with. They upload five questions from that newspaper every day. I used to solve that so that I have a concept of if this question comes in prelims, how can it be asked? How I have to use elimination technique so that I have an entire idea about that topic and the questions that can be asked from that. So I used to study that also every day. 5 questions hardly takes 5 minutes. So I think that regular practice helps us in formatting how to understand this topic from a prelims, from a mains point of view. I think every if you go to that online portal, this given from mains point of view how to do that, from prelims point of view what is important. So I think if you have that habit and if you do that, it hardly takes 10 minutes, but the rewards are really rich.
Fine. So how did you approach the editorials? Were you following Hindu or Express? What was your newspaper and how did you see the editorials and did you make a separate notes of it?
No, sir, I didn't make separate notes of it, but I really followed the editorial part seriously because it also helped me develop an understanding that helped me in mains and interview as well. Otherwise, brute learning of the fact might give us a unrelated hierarchy of all the facts, which we might not be able to reproduce in the on the final day, right? So I think understanding the concept rather than mugging it up helps really well. And if we also see the mains and the interview part of the questioning these days, it is moving towards statement based, directly taken from your newspapers. So I think it also helps then to understand the soul of the question.
Okay. So, was it Hindu or Express? What was your go-to newspaper on a
The
daily
Hindu.
basis? Hindu. Okay, fine. So, another thing is with respect to current affairs, whether did you, for the apart from editorials, for the other articles, whether did you take daily newspaper notes, or did you have personalized newspaper notes, or did you follow any institute's monthly magazines, monthly current affairs compilation before every month they release, and they also release a PT compilation at the end of the year. So did you all refer those to all those things also, or your notes, or both?
So initially, I used to make notes, but once I thought that I have a fair idea and my base is set, I then used to follow what I was telling before. And at the end, I used to go for your Vision ISPT 365s. I think that really helps. And the facts from Vision IS 365, I used to note down separately. All the, for example, there is a report, or there is a data, or there is forest reports, India's forest, the ascending order, descending order, things like that, national parks and news. I used to mark down separately, so that at the end, just 2 or 3 days before the exam, I only had to go through that 1 or 2 sheets of paper.
Okay. So this will give a brief idea of preliminary preparation to a lot of aspirants. Now let us come to the CSAT part. So how was CSAT for you? Like, did you had a separate? Since we are from an engineering background from IAC, the CSAT wouldn't have been a very big issue. Did you have any separate strategy, or like whether you are a comprehension person or a aptitude person, or is there any specific order in which you go with respect to CSAT?
So fortunately, I didn't have that CSAT issue, but I think it's a genuine concern these days, because many people who are scoring high in GS are not really able to clear CSAT. For that, first, this paper needs to be taken seriously, and there is no harm in taking it seriously. Second, apart from your general studies paper, I think every day 2 or 3 questions from any category should be done in CSAT, but those questions should be from previous years. Don't go into the CAT preparation mode where you are taking questions from there. There are enough previous year questions paper for CSAT. So I think if you solve that, for the maths part, it helps. And for the English part, see, there's one thing, that your English is good, but it might not be the case that the examiner's English might be good, right? So the answer might be very different from what you are thinking. So whenever you're solving the comprehension part, keep the UPSC prelims key next to you, so that you know what kind of question generates what kind of answers. Because in CSAT English specifically, there are many inferences questions, so that can be subjective at some point. So I think you have to keep the UPSC's prelims key and then solve CSAT.
Okay, so one final question regarding the preliminary part. Now we'll come to the exam hall aspect of it. So, how did you? What is the role of mock test? The people used to take mock test before the examination. So, how the mock test structure should be? How many numbers it is, or what is the role of mock test? And finally, in examination hall, how you used to manage your 2 hours? Because a lot of people fail to, they would have studied, but the management of 2 hours is the thing which makes them to clear this examination. So what was your strategy for the 2 hours?
So I think I followed a very simple strategy, but an effective one. In the examination hall, I used to divide my paper into 3 rounds. So my first round would be of around 60 to 65 minutes. That is an hour or an hour and 5 minutes maximum. In this, I used to rush through the questions. I used to every question of mine after 1 hour would have one of these marks. First marks would be, I know the question specifically well and I've marked only one option. The second mark would be, I am confused between 2 options. The third mark would be, I know this concept, but this requires a little deeper analysis to reach to the question. And the fourth mark would be, I have no idea about either the question or the options. So these 4 marks were there after 1 hour, 5 minutes. In my second round, when I'm marking the OMR sheets, all the single ticks, if there are single ticks, I used to again reread the question. It would take hardly 5 seconds and it would avoid any silly mistake. if there's, suppose you know the question but it has asked not in the statement, or you might have missed it. So don't rush through and mark your OMR in the first round. Give it a little time. Questions that are certain would fetch you certainly 2 marks, and these are important questions. These are low hanging fruits that are required. So I think if you read that question for 5 seconds and ask yourself, are you sure this is the answer? 99.9% your body will reply, yes, this is the answer. Just mark it then in the second round. The questions that are when you're confused between two options, give it some time, reach to the answer, and then mark it. And after this comes the third round, where you have only two categories left. One that requires a deeper analysis, and second that you have no idea about it. So I think the questions that require deeper analysis must not be given more than 10 to 15 minutes. And by default, you won't have this much time left at the end. So after in that 10 to 15 minutes, you go for these questions which you think that requires deeper analysis. For example, last time there was a question of three rivers merging into one, that Satluj Chenab question. Now everybody knows that map, every serious aspirant, but it requires a little thinking because the question was such. So I think if you do that, I think after the third round, you're hardly left with 6 to 7 questions that you have no idea about, because a serious aspirant more often than not has idea about such questions, and you can very well leave that question.
Fine. So just one follow up from here. So you said that we used to eliminate two options and we are left with two. So
Yes.
is there any thing which you found out how to choose the best of the two for the guessing part? Because guessing is the major part of it. So what helped you in guessing right answers based on your analysis of your test series and performance in films?
So I think a reverse engineering helps really well here. So for example, now I have shortlisted two options. I try to read the option and frame a question. So more often than not, that trick helps. So if you read the question and you try if you read the answers and you try to frame the question, the option that is very close to the question that is asked, I think more often than not that is the answer. But again, all this comes from practice. You cannot just apply this on the final day. If you have applied it through enough mocks and analyzed your mocks, I think this will reap marks.
Okay. So apart from the institute's test series, where you just taking on the random questions and solving like daily basis 50 questions, all those things in the end of the films when the films was nearing?
No, sir. I was mostly solving the full length in my last 1 month, and I was also revising all the sectional that I've already given,
Okay.
because that would make my theory also strong, and that would also help me avoid the mistakes. So majorly it happens, the questions that we do wrong, we remember them. So that's why when you're giving the sectional, try attempting 100 questions, make mistakes, make calculated mistakes, so that even if you're wrong, you will remember it and you will not repeat the mistakes, because then you have revised it also. So in that sense, if you're solving, I think, two test series, which is around 60 papers in total, and you're revising them, so 120 papers, I think, is an enough number to go to prelims with.
Yes, thank you. So now we'll move on to the mains part, the actual IAS exam, which we are facing. So one main mistake most of the aspirants do is they think preliminary is all big thing and they fail to focus on mains preparation. But the main is the actual thing which will give us the services. So like how can we segregate the timings for preliminary preparation and mains preparation? Like imagine for an aspirant who's starting in June. So how can we divide the timing and how we have to approach this preliminary and mains, whether it is a together or integrated way or in a separate way, how we have to segregate the timings and how we have to take on till when we can study for mains?
Sir, I think as I mentioned before, the understanding needs to be common for both, for prelims or mains. If I ask you how volcanoes are formed, you have to know the concept behind it, which will help you in prelims and mains. But the answer writing and the approach to thinking about a topic is different. So for example, in prelims, you are thinking about how I will eliminate questions, eliminate options. But in mains, you are also thinking about how I will introduce this, how I will write what the pros or cons of it, how I will give a way forward in this. So I think after you have read the integrated syllabus of prelims and mains initially, what you can do for mains specifically is you take the syllabus from UPSC. Now, every syllabus, if you see either GS 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3 specifically, it is divided into 20 subheads. What you do is you take your laptop, open your Word, copy that syllabus there. Under every bullet point, you go to previous year questions and mark down all the questions that you think are from that particular subhead. do this for last 5 or 6 or 7 years papers. I think you will have enough database to know what kind of questions are being asked from what subheads. Now once that is done, you'll have enough idea about how mains questions are asked. First thing. The second thing would be, then what you do is you take that subhead, you read about it. So for example, there are SHGs, cooperatives, whatever in the subhead. You read about them from a standard source or from any UPSC website, so that you have a point format answer to it or point format understanding to it. That what are the challenges in the sector, what can be done forward, what is already being done, what are the schemes related to it, any data, any facts, any figures, anything. Once that is done, you only mark all the relevant things that you think your mind can retain. Every mind is different, retention power is different. So whatever you can retain, you put it in your 3 to 4 pages notes of that subhead. Once you do that, I think at the end you're just left with a 60-page uh, crisp notes about one paper. And I think that really helps in the later stages when you're revising your answers. Having said that, this is the static part, preparation part. But you take any coaching test series. What you do is the static part that you're covering, you take that section's paper and you brainstorm the questions. So for example, you read any question in your sectional part, don't write that answer then and there. First brainstorm the question. So for example, if a question comes, I think to myself, what would be the introduction that I'll write. I'll just scribble the introduction there, just next to that sectional booklet only. I'll just scribble. Then I would ask myself, what are the 3 or 4 key points that you're remembering? I'll just scribble those points. What is the way forward that you're remembering? I'll just scribble that and the conclusion and a mini diagram. Once that is done, then I'll read the solution that is given. And when I have, what will it do? It will help me 2 ways. First, it will help me revise the static portion as well as add to my knowledge about that question. And second is, it will also help me in figuring out what is the best answer I could have written in 2 pages, which is required. So I think in that sense, I will address the soul of the question. Either I'll fail or I'll pass or whatever. And B, I'll also revise my static. So I think this is the preparation of means. And every 4 day, you can join any test series for this. Every 4 day, you have to write one test in that prescribed 3 hours format. Because this is where you need coaching, because you would want your answers to be evaluated. Otherwise, everybody thinks that they've written a great answer.
That is after prelims in that gap, or during the before prelims itself, from the October-November time itself?
Sir, I think based on the time that is available to you and based on what stage you are in the preparation. If you're first timer, I would suggest you first understand the concepts better. You first understand how questions can be formed and the brainstorming part. I think that should be, and your optional preparation. This should be done before prelims. Joining a test series and writing answers can be done after prelims, but you should be prepared with your static knowledge.
Okay, so when you are preparing for your first attempt or second attempt, were you doing daily based answer writing practice for an year, or it was only after prelims?
No, I was reading answers daily before prelims.
You were just reading.
Any topper's copy, so as to understand what is the demand. Because if I start writing something wrongly, it will stay with me. So first I have to understand what a good answer looks like. And after understanding that, after developing that understanding, then I used to go for answer writing as well.
Okay, so one more question. You would have written an answer in your first attempt or second attempt main. So you would have got some feedbacks, or you would have seen a topper's answer. So can you just share us what were all the mistakes which you are doing when you are writing the answer? What inputs you got and how you corrected it with respect to answer writing?
Initially, everybody's answers will be horrible. So there is no appropriate time to start answer writing. You have to start when you think you're. It's not about whether I can write a perfect answer in my first go. Nobody writes perfect answers in their first go. So I think you have to start writing somehow. What you can do, there are many many websites which are providing daily 1 question, 2 2 3 3 questions. You can write those questions. You can try writing those questions, and any senior that you trust, any mentor you trust, just give them, who will give you that amount of time also, because mostly after a point it's not very possible to give that much time to a beginner. So any mentor, any friend you think who has given one mains or you think has good knowledge about this area, try showing them your answers. They will start guiding you slowly. And once you are self-sufficient, then you can self-evaluate your answers as well based on the model answers or the information available. So I think it's a process. Once you get into it, slowly everything you start understanding.
So after prelims, we will have roughly 100 days, 90 to 100
Correct.
days.
Yes.
So how can we schedule this 90 to 100 days? What would be which work for you? Which schedule work for you? How did you structure these 100 days, and how and what was your time? You said that every 4 days you used to write the answer. Then what about the optional answer writing? When the optional writing came?
Yes, sir. I think there should be a 50-50 approach. So 50% you have to give to your optional because I think that is the most scoring part. If you see, you can easily score 50% in an optional paper, but you cannot score 50% in a GS paper. So you also have to see where your marks are coming from. So I think 50% you have to give to your optional every day. And some people ask me whether 1 month they should keep for optional and rest for GS. No, every day should be divided in GS and optional, because otherwise even monotony will set in and you will start forgetting the things that you have read 1 month before. So I think every day should be 50-50%. You have to also write essay paper one per week. I think that would be sufficient, because in that when you're preparing GS, you're also preparing for essay. There's no separate preparation for essay. So every week you have to write one essay paper. For ethics, you have to take the syllabus. You have to jot down all the keywords that are given in the syllabus. Take 20 or 30. So ultimately, it would be around 35 to 40 keywords that are given in UPSC's GS4 syllabus. Once you've taken that out, divided into every one page should have just one word. In that page, you have to write the definition of that word. For example, aptitude or integrity, whatever. Once you have written that definition from a standard textbook only, not your understanding of it, from a standard textbook that you can replicate. Also write 2 or 3 good examples that is related to that. It can be your personal example or an administrative example or a mythological example, any example it can be. But write a minimum 3 from every perspective. So in case if a case study comes on that around that word, you have to write the administrator's example. You cannot write a mythological or your personal example there. Based on the question that is coming regarding to that, you have to write examples. So in every with respect to every keyword, you must have a definition, minimum 3 examples, one personal, one administrative, one mythological, anything that you find is correct. And it should be appropriate. It should be, you can get it corrected from your friends. 2 or 3 of you can make that activity together, where you are writing examples. Suppose I write the integrity one, you write the aptitude one, anything, and then you can cross check it, so that at the end you have 30 to 40 pages of crisp notes of ethics, which I think is going to help you in your answer writing as well as in the case studies.
So okay, what was the textbooks which you are following for ethics, and what was your ethics strategy apart from this note making thing?
So for ethics, I used to follow, initially I used to follow Vajiram's yellow books that
Yeah.
come for ethics. On YouTube also, there are, I think, sleepy classes videos available for ethics. Those are really helpful if one pays attention to those. It helps us develop a good understanding of ethics paper, what is required. And apart from that, again, as I said, divide your paper into subheads and see the previous year questions that are coming from that subheads. I think that also helps.
Okay. So for case study, what was your plan?
So for
Case
case
studies.
study, again, I had a very simple approach for case studies. Once you're done reading the case study, there will be one core issue that case study is targeting. Every case study targets one core area. In the first para of a case study, you write the above case study talks about or refers to whatever that keyword, emotional intelligence, or the dilemma between professional and personal ethics, or anything. So I think once first para of your case study should be that. Then based on the questions, if they are asked stakeholders, if they are asked many things, they ask merits, demerits, or everything, you address that, the main portion of the case study, and at the end you also highlight that by doing this I have ensured that I am an emotionally intelligent person, or whatever that case study, that core issue requires, the trait of an administrator. So I think if you structure your case study well, I think you'll fetch good marks.
Okay. So with this, one more thing, let us. So we'll go to the essay part. So in essay part, in the last 2 years, if you could see, the part A part of essay is becoming a bit difficult because of the code-based essays. So earlier we used to choose one GS-based essay from both the parts, but now we should choose a code. So what was your strategy for such essays, and how did you manage them?
Sir, I think for essay preparation is just the GS part. You cannot take philosophical quotes from medieval times and start preparing everything. That is not possible. Based on the amount of time that is available to us, I think first you should be open to thinking in the essay paper. And I think UPSC also gives us ample time. Nobody would complain that time deficit was there during essay paper. Yeah. So I think we should be able to think about any topic in various dimensions. I think I think there's a static code that is political, economic, social, everything. You have that at the back of your head, but you also have to be ready to write a new essay and in the exam. So preparing essay is one thing, but thinking about that essay then and there in the exam hall is another thing. So I think if you're ready for that, if you think that essay is a little dynamic paper which needs to be tackled dynamically, and you should be open for that thought process that I will go and I will think something different there. I think that also helps. But having said that, all the test writing of essay needs to be done very religiously, because otherwise you will not have enough idea of how to structure, how to make that flow of essay looks appeasing to the examiner, right? And how to conclude the essay at the end and everything. So that comes through writing. But the dividing into dimension part, that I think you have to think then and there.
Did you refer to any model essays or sample essays or any references to develop the skill of writing essays with respect to code-based ones?
Yes, sir, I did. I used to refer all the toppers of previous years. So, first there is an all India rank toppers, IAS, IPS. Then you will also find 5 to 6 people who have scored really high in essay, might have not scored really well in GS or anything. I think try to find those copies. That is available online. If you go through it, people who have scored really high in essay, I think their copies are very illustrative. So try to read their answer copies, irrespective of whatever their rank is. Just see their essay marks, and if you think that they're high compared to those years' marks, go through their copies. You will always find something that you can learn out of.
Okay. We'll be happy if we could get your essay copies and answer sheets, just a sample of the series so that we can share. We won't put it in public also, but we'll share with the students whoever we are asking. They are asking.
No, anybody who wants those,
Yeah.
I'll be uploading those on my Telegram channel also.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
you can just
so you are having
you
a
can
separate
just join.
Telegram channel.
Yeah, from Kushal
Yeah,
Jain's name.
Yeah, I'll okay. Then you share the link to me and I'll share it to
Sure.
the students. Yeah.
Sure.
So now we'll move on to the GS 1, 2, 3 part. So is it okay, right? Can we continue? We'll continue with the GS 1, 2, 3, and then we'll discuss about optional, and then we'll wind up. Is it okay for you?
Okay.
Roughly
Okay.
till 5 o'clock. It will be 5:10.
Sure.
Is it fine? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll continue. So now we'll go to the GS 1, 2, 3 part. So with respect to GS 1, we are having a huge areas like art and culture, and we are also having world history. So, and we are also we have to read the post-independence as a topic. Already we'll be studying in prelims. We are having an NCRT, but still. So, how we can manage time and allocate time for these areas, which is having, because the number of questions are very less. So, what was the strategy for world history and art and culture and post-independence history?
So I think world history and post-independence history should only be studied via short notes. So if you can refer to there are many short notes available
Like for
online.
example,
I'm not remembering the name exactly, but there are. But if you just type world history notes UPSC, you'll get one or two really good ones. So I think only that is required, because if you start reading the book that is recommended, I think it's a bulky book. I tried, but it's not, the cost to benefit ratio is very less there. So yeah, don't go for that. Just go for basic short notes so that you have idea about all the world wars and the interwar years and all of that. Once you have a basic idea of that, I think more often than not the question that comes, American Revolution, French Revolution, the basic world history portion. If you have idea about that, I think the questions are pretty much tackable.
So, did you make your personalized notes for all the main topics, for all topics, or only for specific topics?
No, so as I talked about earlier, the subheads that I made,
Yeah.
Those used to have all my personal notes in it. But the world history part and the post-independence part, I refer to other notes.
But for the sociology part, you like social issues, yeah, you are from the optional, so that wouldn't have
Yeah.
been a very big. So what about geography? Like geography is not well-defined syllabus with respect to GS1. We are having a vague syllabus. So what was the geography strategy for GS1?
So geography strategy would be first, as I said, that reading previous year questions. What are
Okay,
the areas
same.
that they're trying to focus?
Yes,
So
yes, yes.
I think water scarcity, urban, the floods part, and all of these are the earthquakes. These are really important parts. I think these you need to understand in detail and write questions as well. But if you find that there are some parts, for example, uh, river basins and all of these are not asked in the mains exam. These are from prelims point of view. So I think those things can not skipped, but more focus can be put to questions that are frequently asked from geography.
So what was the book? Did you refer any book for geography and for both preliminary and mains? What was your source for geography?
So my premium source was Mrunal's Geography online, YouTube. It's
Yeah.
available on YouTube. And
Videos or PDF?
no, starting I used
Course.
to watch videos, but once I have watched that video, then I only used to refer their PPTs.
Okay, fine.
And apart from that, NCRT is really good in geography, and GC Leong I used to follow. GC Leong is a little tough book, but once you have the gist of it, it really helps you understand geography.
What
So I
about the
think
mains
from
part? Yeah.
so the same for mains part, my sources were the same, but I also used to write answers about it from the sectional part, as I told before. So that also enriched. The diagrams part also comes in picture when you're writing mains answer in geography. So I think we can also try to incorporate many diagrams in geography, because there's also always a scope of either a map or world map or anything that the question is demanding. So I think diagrams also help in geography.
Okay, so the one more follow-up question is that with respect to geography, many of the toppers or people will say to refer Savindra Singh for a selected topics. So is that necessity? Did you feel, or did you manage with only the NCRTs and Ronalds?
No, no, sir. I didn't follow Savinder Singh. I think that's a optional book, if I'm not
Yeah,
wrong.
optional book. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't follow it. And
Okay.
if there's any topic that I don't think I know very well, I used to just Google it or YouTube it, and there was one or two explained videos about it, which I would see. So I think that piecemeal approach can work in geography.
So now with respect to the second paper, the one challenging, like in the last, if you could analyze the question paper of the last 2 3 years, the questions asked from the governance part is a bit lengthy, and understanding the questions in the examination all itself was a very big challenge. If you could see in 1920. So how
Yes.
did you handle the governance part of it, and what was your strategy? Like, do you set the sectional division and you made notes? Apart from this, how to tackle such lengthy questions and to break down and give a good answer in GS2.
Sir, I think again, as I said, that previous year questions really help. But again, the initial understanding when I was starting, that there was an understanding that the question can be easily broken, especially in the GS2 part, that they're asking these three subparts. You break it into those three subparts, address it separately, your answer is done. But in governance part, now they're moving towards a statement question, where there would be a long statement that for it doesn't require to be broken, right? So you have to understand the soul what they're asking about the question, and this will only come through practice. Try practicing more and more previous year question papers. Try asking your mentor, I'm thinking that this is the requirement of this question, what do you think? I think that discussion helps. Once you've done that, and once you've understood that, suppose there is a big para, but it is only talking about parliamentary efficiency, the number of days that the parliament works for. Suppose that is the gist of the question. It might have a long uh, quote from the speaker or president or whatever. So just focus on the gist and then write about what are the deficiencies, why it happens, how we can improve it. So then I think the demand of the question is met, rather than just breaking the statement into three parts and addressing those three parts separately.
Fine, fine. So one more question was like overall your GS 1 to 3 strategy, as per your you said that you made you took the sectional text and you divided the topics and you just made notes, and you used to take these test series questions and you used to brainstorm. So how many, like for example, in a test series there used to be only 15 sectional tests. and 5 mock tests roughly. Maximum will be 20. So is the 300 questions enough to practice mains along with the previous years, or we need some more?
So it depends on the time that you have in hand. So for example, if unfortunately somebody doesn't make through prelims this year, now they have an entire year to prepare and they have already done the syllabus once, right?
Yes.
Then they can definitely go for multiple test series. So you have to ask yourself if you are prepared, or if you think that you are good in answer writing in certain things, then you don't need to do that. But if you require more practice, there are definitely multiple sources available in the market.
Okay, so now, since you said, we'll imagine a hypothetical situation. Now we are having a person who has given his 3 attempts, and maybe he wouldn't have cleared the preliminary till now. So now that person would be giving his 4th attempt, his or his 4th attempt. So in that, so what could be, that person didn't clear this year's preliminary also. So that person is having 1 year. So how that person can approach this examination and make it successful in 2023?
So I think if that person is not able to clear prelims 3 times, there is some fundamental flaw in
Okay.
their approach. I think the first part would be recognizing that flaw. You can definitely talk to any seniors or toppers or whoever. You can just message them that this has been a certain, but come with a certain flaw. If you ask that, give me tips to clear prelims, I think that is a exercise in futile. I think you have to tell them that this is my problem area, or I'm not able to manage the time well, or I'm not able to reach to the correct answer when I'm stuck in 2 options. I think this is a better approach to asking any mentor, because then they can help you specifically. So first is identification of that problem. Second is, if you have identified that problem, and I think if that is the problem, then you have to relearn about it. There might be certain things that you have learned and it has not worked with you. Try unlearning and relearning in those areas. I think that also helps, because I think prelims, if you read seriously, can be tackled by anybody. It's not about only IITians or engineers, or anybody can tackle prelims. So I think if you understand where you're lacking and you work for it, I think it is easily achievable.
Okay, so as a follow-on from the same area, how the senior aspirants who are studying for the 2 to 3 years can, who couldn't clear this prelims, can schedule this 1 year. Like it will be like they have done certain mistakes. That's why they couldn't clear in the 3 attempts. So, what would be the best way, as per you, for the best schedule for this 1 year, so that the 2023 could be a positive one for them, for the seniors?
So I think the first luxury that they have is they don't have to study static more and more. I
Yeah.
think that part is mostly done. Whatever is there in the standard textbooks, I think they are well acquainted with that. So they don't have to start again from reading the book. If there are certain topics that they feel a little bit lack in confidence, they can definitely do that. But their more focus should be from solving more papers. So if you're solving more prelims papers, and as well, you don't have to underestimate mains, because by God's grace, if you clear prelims, you have to ensure that you get a rank in that attempt. Don't postpone that this attempt I'll clear prelims, next attempt I'll clear mains. Don't make your strategy like that. Focus on your optional, focus on your mains. Try to give 60% time to your mains, 40% to your prelims, because there is nothing much to read now. There is only application that is lacking. There's only time pressure, application, your ability to eliminate answers that is pushing you back. I don't think any concept is there that I mean, as well as I know that concept, you might also know that concept. So there is no conceptual lacking that is there, but the application part of it should be the more focus, as well as preparation of means.
Is it advisable for them to start with the optionals again and do the getting strong there, and then to the GS part, and then after January going to mains? Oh, sorry, after January going to prelims, whether this will work, or it should be simultaneous for both prelims and mains from this June itself, according
No,
to
sir,
you?
it should be simultaneous, because now you don't have that thing that you have to study NCRTs again, and now you're not confident about giving exams. You have given that this exam multiple times. You know that feeling, you know that pressure. So I think now you should be in a position to simultaneously prepare for everything.
Right. So now we'll go to the main part, that is the optional part. So you are from the sociology optional. So after interacting with a lot of first of all, we'll start with your journey itself from sociology optional. So how did you improve your sociology marks from whatever you got in your first 2 attempts in the previous 2 attempts? So what small nuances you did and what small steps you took to improve it to the present mark which you have got now?
Sir, I think the first understanding that I got from my less marks in sociology that were actually pulling my selection back was that I had the understanding about the concept. I knew what a thinker wanted to say, but I didn't have the required two pages answer to it. So if you ask me that concept, I would explain it to you beautifully. But if you ask me to write it in two pages so as to cover everything, that the concept, the criticism, the way forward, whatever the question is demanding, I was not very comfortable with that. So I think what I did was I went back and then I again unlearned all my theoretical concepts and I started a very exam oriented approach in my optional. I used to make notes of every topic that is there in my syllabus in a way that I was actually writing an answer on it. So at the end, my 2 pages reflected all the knowledge that I had about that, and I think that worked this time.
Okay. So, so, so one add-on question, which most of the students with whom I asked, now I'm going to meet a sociology topper, what questions you have. So most of the students said me this one thing, that ask the book list for paper 2. So paper 2, with paper 1, we are having standard book, but with paper 2, we are not able to find best book. So what would be the right book list and strategy for paper 2 sociology?
So I think first the IGNU notes that are there in the it's there online also, you can find. Uh, Please do this one thing. Just Google sociology optional book list UPSC on YouTube. There's one PDF, or I'll upload it on my channel also. There's one PDF in which every topic and the reference book that you, or the reference chapter that you can read is given for paper 1 and paper 2. I think paper 1 is comfortable, everybody knows the sources, but in paper 2 those IGNU specific chapters are also given, that this topic you can read from this chapter. Apart from that, there is this is one book, I think Nitin Sangwan or Singhani, I have to clear, Nitin Sangwan, I think, for sociology. I think that is a very crisp book that covers all the residuary topics that are there. And apart from that, just have one basic understanding about sociological answer writing, and then you can apply in any questions that are coming. So more often than not, paper two's question are related to current affairs. This time there was a question on COVID and how it has changed. Now this you will not find in any book. You have to apply your sociological common sense in that, that how it has changed family, how it has changed marriage, how it has changed caste equation, how it has changed class equation. If you have those 4 or 5 themes in mind, you can obviously write your answer around these themes. So you have to be ready for that sociological commonsensical approach in paper 2, apart from the static sources that you can obviously find online.
Okay, so IGNO materials and the reference to IGNO materials is the key. So
And I think Mahapatra sir's note from Vajira, I think those are also really good for paper 2 sociology.
So the next question which they asked is, what is the reference for thinkers? What would be the what did you refer for the thinkers part?
So I think first was again Mahapatra sir's notes for thinkers, but those only helped me in generating a basic understanding. There's this book called Ritzer, which is there. So I think this all that also it's only about thinkers. So I think that also helps. And after that, once your thinking is developed, go through previous year questions, look into all the questions that has come from those thinkers, and try writing that 2 to 3 pages notes. So for example, if a thinker has said something about suicide, so just understanding won't help. You have to have those 2 pages notes, that if a question on suicide comes, how I will introduce it, how I will write all the things that the thinker has said, how I will criticize it, and how I will conclude it. So this forms the part of your answer writing, which would eventually go in front of the examiner, right? So apart from thinking, apart from knowing about the thinkers, you should also have that 2 to 3 pages material ready for that.
Okay, okay. So next question regarding the option was, one student said that each and every topic is interlinked from unit 1 to unit 10 of paper 1, everything is interlinked. So at the end of the day, how we have to consolidate all the 10 topics and how we have to interlink it and give it in the examination, in the answers.
Yes, sir. As I mentioned earlier, also sociological common sense helps. So you cannot actually prepare 100% beforehand, right? You only can prepare to a certain limit, and then you have to think in the exam hall as well. So if a question comes, so not everything will come in the paper. Only certain things can come because there are only 19 questions you have to write. So if you get a question on thinker, and if you think based on that question, there is something that you can relate from your notes. if you're thorough with your notes, if you have revised them well, so everything will be on the tip of your memory, right? So once that is there, then you can relate also. While answer writing, you can relate. You can get it checked from a credible mentor. And once you've practiced that, I think that starts coming naturally. And even if you're not able to do that, it's not that big a thing. First, you have to get your basics right. And if you get your basics right, I think you will be rewarded well.
Fine. So, what about the test series for optional? So, can you elaborate about the optional test series which you followed? And one more thing is, can you say about what was it in your first attempt, second attempt, third attempt, and fourth attempt, or it was same for all the attempts?
Sir, in my first attempt, I think I followed Vision IAS's sociology. I have to look into it. In my second attempt, I think I also followed Vision, and in my third and fourth attempt, I didn't follow any coaching, but I got their again test series. I got from the market, the Xerox copies of it, and I read through it. I used to brainstorm, and I used to read through the solutions.
For the optionals, also the same strategy of reading the
Yes.
questions and brainstorming, and
Yes.
that part works. Okay, fine. So next part with respect to optionals is a few said that going from 250 to 275 is a very big task. So what a person should do to take a leap from 250 to 275? Like already you have said that you made a notes with answer writing perspective rather than just a sub knowledge perspective. So apart from that, what else a person in the basic things they have to do to make it to 275?
So I think if you see, actually, we write 38 answers in the final question, right? Two papers. And if you're scoring 250 and you have to move to 275, it's just around zero. 0.5 or even 0.4 marks you have to increase per question uh, mathematically. So I think first should be what you're doing, keep doing that. Don't change the entire strategy, because 250 in these times are also considered above average marks only in option. So I think first you have to continue doing that. Second, what you do is when you're writing answers, when you're practicing, if you come across some thinker or some new theory, for example, if you are so if there is about globalization, if there is about COVID, there would be new thinkers, there would be new people who are saying things. They might not be sociologists, right? One or two things that you do is you jot down these people from, and these you will find when you're reading those answers from any standard test series, right? If you find anybody who's apart from the conventional thinkers, you write it down. Maximum one or two per topic, because otherwise you will not be able to retain. And these people you try to reflect in your answers when you're writing. Try practicing them, try revising them. But all this will happen when you have those crisp notes that you can revise just 1 or 2 hours before your paper. Once you have that, I think this replicates in the answer writing, and even in your final answer, that extra half mark edge you'll get.
Okay, so one final question. So, since we are from sociology optional and we will be reading editorials and current affairs, when you are reading current affairs and when you are reading editorials, did you have sociology in mind, and did you make a separate reference for sociology from whatever current affairs you are reading?
So at the back of my head, I had that in mind, but not every editorial will be a sociological editorial. All the editorials related to health, education, women, gender, race, ethnicity, only those are from sociological point of view. So once I used to find any article, irrespective from the Hindu, anywhere I used to find, I used to just give it a read, so that tomorrow, even if I have one reference from that article that I can put in my answer, it will really help me boost my marks. So you, by default, if you're a sociological student, somewhere your that brain will be active. And I think if you are aware about these things, I think subconsciously it will register in your mind.
Okay, fine. Thank you. So finally, you came to the personality test part, and can you like you are also part of the personality development program of KingMakers also. So how was the session with respect to KingMakers and your experience, or how you felt with that in the
So
final
I
part?
think I interacted with Vivek Harinarayan sir, and I think he really helped me tackle the HR questions well, regarding how I should frame my all these answers, that why did I leave my job. Like I had a thought process in mind. He helped me to structure it. So,
And great. So thank you, Kushal Jain sir, for joining this session and teaching our aspirants and motivating them and giving them the tips which you followed so that they could clear this examination. So thanks for spending your time and discussing. So surely this video will help a lot of people throughout India. And one more thing. So when you saw your results, so I know for 3 attempts you are giving interview and you didn't find your name. So at one fine day you saw in number 40 your name. So how was that day and what were you doing on that day and how was that night?
Yeah,
It's
it's
a personal.
definitely it's full of anxiety, and it happens with everybody. Even if you're an IPS officer and you're trying to enhance your rank, that day is full of anxiety, and that is a very human emotion. So I think that will happen with everybody. Just one thing that I want to put across to all the aspirants is, anybody that you're following or you think is being glorified right now has gone through that struggle phase. Everybody. So if you're part of that struggle phase, you are well on track to be successful one day. So there is no shortcuts to it. You have to go through that struggle phase. Just try rectifying your mistakes and improving on yourself, because at the end you are the one who are going to represent yourself in the examination hall. So if you're doing that well, I think success is not very far.
Okay. Thank you, Kushal sir, for joining this session and sharing all your thoughts. And as part of the KingMakers IAS Academy, from the team of KingMakers and from our CMD, Mr. Bhuminathan sir's point of view, I'll give my congratulations and thank you for joining us. We hope you join the services and become a bureaucrat and serve the nation and serve the people's welfare. And you be an Adarsh civil servant for the nation. Our best wishes for your future endeavor. And do share your answer sheets and model answers and essay answers. And do your mentoring also for the students who are looking up to you. So as a request, do that thing so that more number of people clear this examination. So all the best. Thank you. Thanks for joining this.
Thank you for having me, sir.